Welcome to Weekend Kickoff. It is brought to you by Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems, and it is the biggest one of the year without question. It's the biggest of all time. And we're going to get right to it with Bill Landis, Bobby Carpenter, Zach Boren. I'm Austin Ward. Which one of you is the most fired up for the game?
Jeremy Birmingham, offset.
No, it's Zach.
No, it's me. I'm ready. I've been waiting 360 days now, whatever, when we're recording. I don't know, till game day.
To point Denard Robinson one more time.
No, that wasn't Denard, Bob. It was definitely Devin Gardner.
My
but
bad.
it's okay. Same thing.
They are the same person.
Yeah, same person. God, I don't even know where to start. Like, I need teed up with something because there are so many things that have been going through my mind for so long, let alone I am married to a Team Up North grad, and her family.
I don't know how that happened.
And her family are huge supporters, season ticket holders up there, and I have just been getting the wrath for the last however many years now.
What do you mean you don't know how it happened? Okay, so Zach's dad played in Michigan. He's the defector.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Justin.
He was like Sean Connery in The Hunt for Red October, you know?
No doubt. I'm just sick and tired of it.
They were trying to change you.
No doubt. Like, imagine everything that we're all dealing with on social media and all the hate and, imagine dealing with that at home in your own backyard. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. I'm ready. Like, God, I'm not even sitting with them on Saturday. I got my own tickets.
You can't, yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah,
I said, hey, you have free tickets? I don't want them. I'm going somewhere else.
This man is ready. Ohio State, Michigan, the game, Saturday noon in the Big House. Bob, I maintain. You can't convince me otherwise. This is the biggest one ever.
I love the being the prisoner of the moment, but you did spell out, you made a very articulate argument to me earlier about why that was the case and the fact that, it was always the final game of the regular season, or at least it has been for, it seems like eons. And then we had the addition of the divisions in Maryland and Rutgers. You have the Big Ten championship. And you look back and there was that opportunity where maybe was it 2 years or just one? How long did Legends and Leaders last?
Oh, two years.
2 terrible years.
Yes.
So 11, Ohio State wasn't good enough to get there. 12, they didn't count. And Michigan wasn't good enough during that time to make it either. And so that was the one time where they could have played twice. And that would have been terrible. And then they switched to divisions. And Michigan's gotten better. And the West has been awful. So this became essentially the de facto game before you go kick the extra point in the Big Ten championship. And now, there's going to be divisionless. You've got the West Coast teams coming in, and so you could play each other twice, maybe
playoff expansion,
possibly the playoff expansion, maybe a third time. How often could maybe both of these teams be this good? Because the conference will be severely beefed up, given its current state, which it's like an anemic, stray cat that lives in Alaska, it's starving right now. Outside of Penn State, I mean, they're 10-2. They're doing
There's a little sustenance there.
Exactly what they're supposed to do. They provide a backstop for Ohio State and Michigan, so when you play someone, you can add another top 10 team into your schedule. But outside of that, the conference has been pretty bad this year. I mean,
Rutgers, man. What about Rutgers?
Oh, gosh. I can't. Don't go there, Bill. So this is it. Austin, This is probably it. This is the last real Ohio State-Michigan game. Afterwards, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. Well,
it matters, but it doesn't.
This is like the last bedlam, the last samurai.
Yeah. But they're going to keep seeing each other. It just won't mean as much.
Well, exactly, because you can see each other multiple times.
Yeah. And
if you only get one conjugal visit a year, it's a lot more important than if you could have 2 or 3.
That's a lot of building.
Yeah. If they see each other back to back, I'd almost play the end of the regular season game, win it, and then just literally say, hey, forfeit the Big Ten championship game when I see you again. Give me the 5 seed so I have a home playoff game and my athletic department gets more revenue. Screw you. You can sit at home with the 4 seed. I'm fine with it. And let's go.
It's crazy. That's almost where we're at. But I look out in the Pac-12 and it's wow. I mean, with everything that's happened out there, it would have been crazy to see, a back-to-back game or maybe 2 in 3 weeks, which, is that really that much better? If you would have had
didn't we see that last year? USC and Utah, I think, were played twice in
3 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah. And that's
played twice in 3 weeks, and Utah beat them both times.
Yes, which is crazy to think that happened. But, yeah, that's the reality of it. The ACC's in the same boat now. I mean, everybody kind of start moving around. The Big 12
ACC is far worse than the Big Ten.
Well, they are.
Don't give me that.
No, the ACC outside of Florida State.
They're terrible.
They're bad. But the Big 12, they've got it. They've got a bunch of 5-2 teams, and then in the conference.
Yeah, Bob, Big 12's the same way.
I know.
Who's good in the Big 12? You're talking all this trash about the Big 10. Who's good in the Big 12?
The Big 10 is top heavy, though. At least there's 2 good teams, and then
That's better than zero.
I'd rather be top heavy than one heavy.
There used to be like, and Penn State is still probably sitting there probably around 9 to 12 is what they probably realistically are. But then you would have like Wisconsin, and they would be in there, and they'd be in that mix of somewhere between like 11 and 15. Iowa would somewhere be in that mix, mid-teens to 20s, which they are. But the problem is, Zach, they can't. I mean,
here's the thing. Though, look, this is a Michigan-Ohio State show, and I can't believe we're not talking about the game.
I know.
But Bob is going somewhere, and I just want to make a point. Look at all the conferences along college football.
I know.
They're all top-heavy with probably a top two. Pac-12, Oregon, and Washington. Other than that, who's really good? You can't sit here and say Oregon State is a really good football team. Like, you just can't say that. You go to
Oregon State is a pretty good team.
But Bob, where would they finish in the Big Ten? I guarantee you Penn State would beat Oregon State.
It's a strong guarantee.
Penn State would beat them.
Is it a tight game?
Yeah, it's a tight game.
Well,
Penn
then
State
they lose.
beats them. No, Penn State would beat them. Okay, look at the Big
said
12.
blowout.
I know, but look
if they are a top 10
Yeah.
team and they're going against James Franklin, then I think I know who's going to win.
Look at the Big 12 though. Texas. Who else is really good? I mean, Oklahoma isn't what everyone wants them to be. ACC, Florida State. That's it. You look at the SEC. Alabama and Georgia is really it. Who else is good? You can't tell me Missouri's a really good football team. Ole Miss, I love Lane Kiffin, but they're not world beaters.
I agree. I'm in agreement with you.
So every big conference is top heavy.
Burr thinks LSU is good.
What?
LSU is good.
Oh my God!
Here's the thing:
Burr.
LSU could beat you because they can just outscore you. Like,
Yeah,
you have to get
They
stops.
also gave up like 7,000 points to
You know
Ole
who-
Miss.
you know-
What? Ohio State plays Michigan on Saturday.
this is
What
who-
are we doing?
This is LSU is Ohio State circa 2001
You know
or
who?
2021.
Circa 2023, I think Ohio State's pretty
2021.
good.
Yeah,
No
the
doubt.
defense is because you know why? It's the defense.
I'll tell you who's going to be seeing a lot of that defense on Saturday is J.J. McCarthy. That's who's
good.
going to be seeing a lot of that defense on Saturday.
Thank you. I had lost control
Thank you.
of weekend
Yep.
kickoff
I'm
brought to you by
back.
Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems. And we're back. Now we're going to talk about the game for real. Bill, it's the biggest one of all time. Many people are saying it.
Many people.
Yeah, I wasn't around in 1972. So I
Okay.
But yeah, this is the biggest one since I've been around. That I've been around it for a decade. I was there for the 2018 2016 game.
One.
Double overtime.
Yeah.
Incredible build up. This feels very different. I was not around for 2006, so I won't pretend to know whether or not this feels like it or not. But
What do you mean you weren't around?
I was alive.
How old are you? I mean,
I watched it on television.
He's
Okay,
six-
so
he's
you
16.
saw it?
I'm 12.
I vividly remember watching that. I watched the whole build up.
I watched it.
They put that HBO documentary out right there. Bo Schembechler died right before the game.
Yeah, uh-huh.
The
Schembechler
16th?
Friday night.
Yeah, the 16th. It was this week. I remember. It was last week rather. I think it was the 16th that he passed away. And they had the huge Ohio State, Michigan, like the 100 whatever it was, 100 games or something. And I'm sitting there in my home in Dallas, Texas, watching. It was an hour and a half. Like that was my wife and I's Thursday night viewing pleasure, like hanging out and watching that. It was great. It was good stuff.
This is why this year is bigger than 2006. I was in the middle of it in 2006. The issue was you had Lloyd Carr and Jim Tressel, who are phenomenal coaches, but had so much respect for one another off the field that the 60 minutes that were going on in between the lines, it was an all-out war, but that was it, right? It was 60 minutes. You fast forward to this year in 23, these coaches hate each other.
Yes.
Well,
They don't, they were asked Jim Harbaugh was asked in his press conference, how much respect do you
wants
have?
to pipe one.
Yeah,
on
I
him.
know. How much respect do you have of Ryan Day and his staff? And he completely avoided the question, which, in my opinion, means he has zero respect. And there's people who are saying, oh, he just puts that much emphasis on the game. No. If he's asked that question, he's going to say, I've got a ton of respect for them. That's why this game is so big. That's why we've had all these big matchups. But no, he completely avoided it and said it's all about the guys on team. Meaning, telling me, that shows how much hate Jim Harbaugh has for Ryan Day. And I know for a fact Ryan Day has just as much hate for Jim Harbaugh.
I would say probably more.
Yeah. Why does Jim Harbaugh hate Ryan Day?
Jim Harbaugh has no reason to hate Ryan Day. That's the beauty of it.
Why is he so weird? These are questions that no one will ever figure out.
How does anybody cover that program with
I like
9-minute press conferences with once a week with the head coach?
I like my team like my mom at the pool or One Piece or whatever. Whatever his Ted Lasso quote was.
Why did he think that he could become Ted Lasso? Ted
Because
Lasso.
that's kind of who he is.
No,
to tell you
Ted
the
Lasso
truth.
has social skills.
Yeah, you're
He's
right.
likable.
He is.
I don't
Jim
really
Harbaugh's
like
not.
Ted Lasso.
Well,
But
yeah.
Yeah,
That's a side
the other thing though is outside of the head coaches, I think that the hate has spewed into the players.
yeah.
Like I think the way some of these players carry themselves, the rest of these guys have actually started hating one another,
And
which you don't get very much.
I felt that last year when they walked into the stadium. Didn't you also when Ohio State walked? Like everyone was just like staring at Michigan.
yes.
Because Michigan was warming up and like it looked like they had hate in their eyes when they were looking at
It was-
walking in.
Yeah, I remember distinctly like one of the people mixing it up when Ohio State walked into the horseshoe last year, because the Michigan situation is much worse. We'll talk about that in a second. But Michigan kept pushing over and over and over towards the sideline where Ohio State walks in. And the fact that Xavier Johnson was one of the three people like talking trash and shoving around, was like the nicest guy on Ohio State's team.
Oh yeah.
Has this hate in his heart? What has happened here? But I can understand it. I mean, it isn't built on the respect maybe that it used to be. Maybe
Because Bo and Woody played, for each other. Even Lloyd Carr, you go to Jim Tressel and like those battles, like there was a respect there, and I just feel like that has all evaporated into thin air.
The
It used to
respect's
be-
gone. It's hate.
Well, that's what I mean. I disliked the guys when we were playing, but there were guys from Central Ohio that went to Michigan. There were guys from Ohio that would come down, or guys from Michigan would come down and go to Ohio State. And like you'd have conversations, and especially the Central Ohio guys, you talk to them. There's some Pickerington guys that have gone to Michigan.
Yeah.
And then like it was good. It was good off the field, and now it just seems like it's not good at all. Like it's just bad.
I would compare it to this. You've seen massive heavyweight fights, whether it be boxing, whether it be UFC, right? Those guys talk so much crap leading up to it, and then what do they do after every bout? They always hug, and it's like, oh my God, because they have respect for one another. And that's what it was like playing in the Ohio State Michigan game. I remember, that whole week leading up, like you started just to churn that hate and that respect that you have for 51 weeks out of the year. That 1 week would start turning into hate, and then you play that game, you're like, this is all out. But then it was like after the game, like it was almost like you wanted to give him a hug, like a brotherly, like, man, we just went at it. I respect the hell out of you. You respect the hell out of me. It's not like that anymore, like at all. Those guys after the game aren't shaking hands. Those guys aren't giving each other hugs. Like Bob said, used to know those guys and catch up with them after the game and say, man, we put our bodies on the line. Like, yeah, you gave it your all. I gave it my all. Now those guys are like, screw you. Right? Like, oh yeah, I would take another run at it. I'm like, yo, they talk shit. They talk shit about each other
it
after
used
the
to
game.
be like Rocky and Apollo, and then they go hug it out. A couple dudes running on the beach, sweaty. It's all good. And then it turned into like Rocky and Tommy Gun. Why did Rocky 5 was on the other day, and I may have watched probably 20 minutes too much of it, but I feel like that's where we're at now.
I thought we were more at if he dies, he dies.
No, because even at the end of that, like he respected him till the end. He gives it to him at the end.
Touch some gloves. Yeah.
Till the end. And like they knew exactly what was going on. Tommy Gunn's out there just talking a bunch of trash. It's a whole mess. Like there's just a lot of hatred and vitriol. Like you can't even respect the other guy for how hard he's worked and what he's done.
All right, the two of you have been down this tunnel. You've been dropped off by the bus outside of it. It, I think, is one of the most dangerous places to be. Setting aside
100%.
War zones, I think the place that I like to be the least in the world is in that tunnel.
When do you guys walk down that?
I go down there before the game to see how much the water is boiling, and then I can't go down the field. Berm's the only one who has to have actual riot gear to go to the sideline, but I want to go down there, and I don't think I should this Saturday. That sounds dangerous and crazy.
Here, cover up your podcast logo.
Yeah,
I would be.
But like, what's it like in that tunnel?
We talked about this on Sunday, right? We talked about it on Sunday, and the best thing I can compare it to is they literally are trying to bait the away team because the locker rooms are the length of this table wide, right, from one another. You open up the doors up, and you are looking at one another.
You can see
right?
into the other one. It's not even offset. They're like right there.
And there's hardly any security, and it's normally the strength coaches that are holding everyone back. Well, the issue is Michigan being the home team, they always have the luxury of, hey, away team's got to go, and Michigan's like right behind you, talking all this trash, and you are forced to be like pushed out. It's like you have a dog that's got like a piece of steak, right? Or a lion's got a piece of steak, that's what I said, outside of its cage, and you're just shaking it, and you're forcing the lion to go in the other direction. It's like you're just baiting for it to just turn around and snap on you. And so for everyone that wants to say, this is one of the greatest stadiums in all of college football. People that want to say the issue that happened with Michigan State and Michigan is so on Michigan State. That's not true. Michigan baits the away team the entire time, and then they basically laugh about it. I'm not worried about pregame because pregame coaches have everything somewhat under control. I'm worried postgame because the way this game goes, those coaches aren't aligned at the same time, all coming out and saying, hey, we're on a schedule, we know exactly what's going to happen. The game ends, guys shoot up the tunnel, right? Some guys stay out on the field. If they know buddies, right, they'll talk to them. Everything's scattered out. You don't have enough coaches to police everything. That's when things can go sideways. And that's what you saw in Michigan State, Michigan.
The game might be the undercard. That might be the real game might be afterwards.
Well, then I'll be down in the tunnel
That's
for
not
that too.
Bob, that wouldn't be the undercard. That would be like the postcard.
Yeah. I mean, you're right, the post-game stuff. And I guess in 05 when we won up, it sucked in 03 because they're just their fullback, and I can't even think of his name, we're number 36, and he had filed down the screws on his helmet. I mean, AJ's arm, he still has this unbelievable bubble-up scar. And so, they took Mastisol, this thing's pouring blood all over the place. They took Mastisol, which is kind of like human glue. They poured it in there, it burns, pinch it shut. And then they put a sleeve over it, and this a neoprene sleeve just getting chunked. And go tell the ref, dude, what? I don't know what he's doing here, but when he's hitting his helmet with his forearm, there's just gashes coming out of this rubber. And then he we looked at his helmet, it's good. I'm like, well, yeah, dude, because he went and changed helmets, and he didn't have his face mask filed down anymore. But it was a mess. And
Do you think that Michigan often skirts the rules of college football?
I mean, listen, I 03, I was up there, and it was brutal. They were ready to go, and they beat us, and that was Chris Perry, and that was the 21st century Tim Biakabatuka. But then in 05, when we went and got them, and they were just sad because they were winning up by 12 with 7.5 minutes to go, and we beat them. And it was awesome watching them just sad clown, heads down. They wanted nothing to do with it. And they just put their tail between the legs and walked in because they accepted defeat. These guys, I don't think, would do that. They would turn to fight you as if somehow you had wronged them by beating them on the field.
Plus, I think this, and nothing because it's the week, but just the way they carry themselves, I feel like they have this arrogance about them, starting with their quarterback.
Kind of like your dad.
No, my dad's got
I'm
no arrogance
joking.
about him, Bob. Come on.
I'm joking.
But
Justin Moore?
No, but I wouldn't say that about it. Guys that we played against. But this Michigan team feels like there's an arrogance about them that just that they're cocky. They feel like they walk on water, and it's just
even if you win, you didn't deserve to.
What have you done lately?
Maybe they'll file a TRO if they lose.
I don't know how that impacts the game for the officials. Get them out of there.
Didn't impact the suspension.
All I know is I'll be up there, and I'm staying the night in Ann Arbor Saturday night because my in-laws have a hotel up there for us. I swear, when Ohio State wins, I'm going to burn that city down. It'll be behind enemy lines, right? Soldiers all leave. I'm the only one left behind. I'm going to be throwing grenades in that city and just blowing it up as I'm walking out. It'll be like a Vin Diesel rock scene when they're walking out and just blowing up.
I was planning on coming back home on Saturday night, but I guess not. I can't leave Zach behind. I got to make sure that he's okay for Sunday Blitz.
He'll make it to Berms. He'll be good.
Yeah, that's the safe spot, neutrality. Bill, what's one big thing for this matchup?
Oh, man, there are a lot of big things for this matchup. I've been talking about it a lot, so people might be tired of hearing about it.
Nope.
I think the one big thing is Ohio State's ability to handle Michigan's defensive interior. I think those defensive tackles are really good. Donovan Jackson and Matthew Jones, I think, have played well this year, and Donovan Jackson has played better, I think, throughout the course of the season. Matthew Jones has been solid for most of the year, consistent. I still wonder about the center position. I want to give Carson Hinsman credit for playing better against Minnesota, but there's been enough there from him with shaky play. And I'm not talking about snaps. I'm talking about giving up pressures and not sustaining blocks that I'm worried about that spot and whether or not Michigan can blow up Ohio State's offensive game plan with just its defensive tackles. So I think Carson Hinsman is like the most important player in this game.
Wow. It's a lot. There's truth to that, though. And Michigan's good inside, not as good on the outside.
There's a lot of truth to that. Yeah.
I'll, I guess, flip that on the other side, and I know that everybody will sit here, and anybody that's been a part of it, the team that rushes the ball best wins the game. And so, for me, if you're going to try to run the ball 50 times in a game, it's going to come down to the box, the front seven for Ohio State, how that's going to look, how Jim Knowles chooses to deploy that. I mean, I have a feeling that you're going to get a steady dose of Cody Simon in there with Tommy and Steele. You have 3 linebackers that are all pretty good. And then you can have Sonny Styles play safety. So now you have like 4 dudes back there that are all, 225 and up. They can all tackle, that are physical pieces. And I really think, coming down to it, like, those guys will handle the inside. Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau on the edges, what they're able to do. They haven't maybe had the greatest statistical seasons, but they've gotten better and better. Jack finally blew the top off, had some big plays. But those dudes are big physical defensive ends. Like, everybody wants more of, Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry, and those guys are good, and they're going to be good. But if you look at Jack Sawyer and JT, like, these dudes look like men. Like, they're 270 pounds defensive end. They're big,
they're grown men,
physical dudes, and they're going to have to be able to set the edge. You box them inside. If you can do that, I'm not worried about the guys fitting the run and being able to get them down. But that, to me, is where it's going to be won and lost.
Well, I agree with your point. I think there's times for Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry this year. A game like this where Michigan's going to want to try and run the football, that's like, hey, Jack and JTT, here you go, man. This is
a Notre Dame style game, like what Austin won, 68 straight plays.
This is your game.
I think for the defensive ends, that's more manageable. Probably not at defensive tackle, which is why Mike Hall's availability is so important.
I think he'll be back.
Yeah,
didn't Ryan say as much?
He said that on Saturday, but you can take his availability report with a heaping grain of salt if you want. But
didn't he come out of town hall and say he was?
Mike Hall said he's playing. Ryan Day said he's playing.
Mike Hall's from Cleveland, Ohio. Dude. He's tough. He's not missing this game.
He's a LeBron James in Streetsboro. You don't know that about him?
Yeah, I've heard. Look, LeBron doesn't like load management either. He wants to go out there and play every game. I know that he will. I'm just saying that's why it's important. I'm not ruling him out. I just think you got to have your best players available to play the most important high leverage snaps.
And you're going to get what you want. You told Larry, and he gave it to you in Notre Dame. He'll give it to you one more time.
And then I said, Larry, guess what happened? JT was still fresh enough on the last drive of the game defensively to make the stops you needed.
If you're forcing them into a passing situation late in the game too, then you know what? Sub in Caden and sub in Kenyatta.
Yeah. Was that your big thing? Interior?
No, special teams. No, it's. I'm a broken record, but like in a matchup game, the kicking game, I'm not saying that you got to win with punts, but you can't commit stupid holding penalties when they punt it to you. You can't line up wrong. If you're going to execute a fake, you can't botch the snap. If you're going to kick off, it's got to be in bounds. You can't let a punt bounce at the 15 and then drop inside your 3. There's probably 10 more things I could name that just happened this season. It cannot happen. Can't happen. Special teams.
Superior special units.
I like it. Especially on the road. Yeah. I get it.
I mean, Zach, they gave up 25 yards of field position in the first quarter last week.
That's bad.
What are you doing?
Yeah, that's bad.
That's all I got. No, it's not. Yes.
Well, especially going against the number 1 defense in the country.
Yeah.
Right? Statistically, number 1, right?
There's such large swings of field position.
Yeah, for
when
sure.
A punt, a field goal, kickoff, you've got to execute it. It doesn't make any sense that they can't do it.
For sure. So, since I normally love going last, but now I'm getting handcuffed because Bill and Bob took both of the things where my head was going.
Early bird gets the worms.
No doubt. And because I love Bill and Bobby so much, I'm just gonna double up. I'm gonna double up on both of them because I think both of their points, their points that they're making, they deserve a double dunk on it. So
there's nothing else. I mean, that's it.
That's it. I think center for offensive line for Ohio State, 100%. They're gonna have to do something because Michigan with their defense tackles. Graham is great. Yeah. That 78. Grant. Yeah, is great. Graham and Grant, right? But yeah, both those guys
the
are
Gigi brothers.
Yeah, but they're phenomenal. And I think when they're not even on them, Michigan's going to bring pressure to try and single up Carson Hinsman, especially in passing situations. So how is he going to be able to respond? You get Ohio State behind the sticks. We've seen it all year from an offense standpoint. They're not as successful, right? They need to get 3, 4, 5 yards on first down in order for them to really move the ball down the field and get in rhythm. And then on the flip side, look at the last 2 weeks for Michigan. What do they do when their backs are against the wall? They literally run the football. They're going to want to run the football. Look at the games the last 2 years against Ohio State. Ran the football. So what can Ohio State's front seven do to be able to keep up with that? Granted, I think defense tackle, we're getting a lot more production this year than we have in years past. I think the defensive ends suit up perfectly for a physical run game. And then to me, it goes to the linebackers. Like Tommy should be fresh, should be able to play really well. Bob, I don't know, and I might be wrong. I don't know if Ohio State's going to go to a 3 linebacker set, even though everyone loves, like, hey, Steele, Tommy, and Cody all in there at the same time. But if you go to that, who you taking out, Sonny? You can't take out Jordan Hancock. The way Jordan Hancock's been playing and playing the run and being able to blitz them, like, I think you have to stay in that 2 linebacker set, and it amplifies what Sonny and Jordan are able to do with playing the run, but we've seen it all year with what they're able to do. And so those guys are going to have massive games. I also think defensively, you got to get some turnovers. We've seen it the past couple of weeks, continue to get turnovers, especially on the road. Dude, those momentum swings, Bob will tell you, those momentum swings are insane when you're on the road in a top 10 matchup, top 5 matchup, and that defense gets to take away.
Well, we're going to look a little bit closer at what Ohio State defense can do against Michigan. We're going to have Zach and Bob get on the whiteboard, and then we're going to be back in here for some more weekend kickoff brought to you by Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems with Berm to get a little vibe check late in the week on what Berm's thinking about the game.
Precision engineering, rigorous attention to detail. A Bryant Evolution heating system is so well designed, it's as much of a joy to install as it is to use.
Good to go.
For the dealer nearest you, visit Bryant.com.
All right, now we're going to take a look here at some of Michigan's best offensive running sets. They love to run the football. They ran it, 35 times straight against Penn State.
I believe 32, but who's counting?
34, 32. They ran it 40-some-odd times against Maryland. They like to get in a lot of wide surface sets. So when you look at this, what is a wide surface? Well, you've got 1 offensive lineman, 2 offensive linemen, tight end who's probably an offensive lineman at 3, 2 more tight ends, 5. And what that does is it starts to stretch the team, stretch your defense. So whether they have this guy here, they could put him over there, but it elongates your front. So it stresses these second-level players to ultimately make tackles one-on-one in the gaps.
Well, actually, what they did against Penn State, and we'll see this early on, is Michigan fully believed that they could outman Penn State. So what they would do is bring in another offensive lineman, right? And they thought, hey, we could out-physical them. We'll see early on, because they will go to this, whether this is an offensive lineman or they put in another tight end and they go 3 tight end set. That's what we're going to have to wait and see. If they think like, hey, we need a big body in here and we can out-physical them, or we need to be able to do something with the tight ends.
And so the running plays in this, they're not crazy. I mean, they can go strong side, they can go weak side, but we've talked about this in the past. You start talking about a lot of what they would refer to as deuce blocks, where you start getting double teams on the point of attack right here, and they're going to drive and climb up, pound it and climb up, and they're going to work somehow here and work up there, and they're just going to run the ball downhill. They can do it to the other side as well. And so as you look at this, you have to find a way to split these double teams and ultimately get penetration. If not, they start pouring the football down the field. And this is what happened last year, is they were running right through here. Tommy got a little bit heavy right here at Mike linebacker, and you saw him wind out and just run away. And everybody else is gapped out. And he tried to hit this guy a little too thick and couldn't get over to make that play right at the last second. And so this is what this does, is by stretching it, that's ultimately what they can create.
The other big thing that you have to look for, Penn State stayed in base defense, literally lined up and said, hey, this is what we're running. The issue is it puts an insane amount of stress on the Mike linebacker and the strong safety, because now if the end gets blocked out, running back's taking it here. If the end at the last second jumps in here and the running back stays to the outside, now you got one-on-one blocks, and this guy's got to make a tackle in space. What you're going to see from Ohio State, what you hope to see, we'll see if they actually do it, is you can actually bounce the defensive line, right? So then you're going to force the nose guard to then switch over and come more heads up. You're going to take this tackle and make him more heads up. And then what you also do is the will linebacker will bounce a little bit and come to the inside. And then when that happens, Bob, is you've got a guard that's kind of like, oh, I've got really no one to block, and it's so hard to get the double team to come up here, right? Because that nose guard is there. And now this will linebacker's got some space, and this guy doesn't want to come out here in space. They want to take the double team back up. Now you got that one-on-one block. The other thing that you can do is if you stay in base, start angling guys towards the strength of defense. But you're going to want to move these guys over, and then it creates more one-on-one blocks that these guys are going to have to do. And Michigan is so good with double teams. That's where it's been their bread and butter. So if you can stress them to take guys more one-on-one, I trust the Ohio State front seven and win in one-on-one matchups.
I like that. And that's Urban Meyer hated seeing odd fronts. And an odd front is where you have 3 guys generally. You can have 4 or 5, but when you start putting them head up like this, because it eliminates the ability to get double teams, you can't get push. And so these guys have to try to get over and then climb up. And like what Zach was saying earlier about this, one of the issues that they have is when you kick over to eliminate those, but if not, you won't even block this corner. You'll go here, You'll try to block this guy, and he'll come over and make this decision on whether he's going to go inside, outside, depending on where the end goes. This guy's sitting at 10 to 12 yards, so there is a lot of space for him to come downhill and make that tackle. And if you're getting any type of push or these gaps get stretched, you're going to ultimately have some issues. So, go ahead.
And here's the other thing is that, a lot of people, when they say they switch over, they're going to say, hey, the back end here is super vulnerable. What's going to happen is when they boss over, this free safety is going to come down and basically play this linebacker position. We've talked about Sonny Styles and how big he's going to be in this game. Yeah. You get number 6 right here in the box. It's essentially another linebacker. So now you're not as stressed over here, right? So if they come down here and run something backside, guess what? The will can go up and fill. There's no one back here to block number 6. He's a free runner, right? And then the Mike linebacker still's got a one-on-one. This guy, this offensive lineman, Big Ugly, has to be able to cut off Tommy Eichenberg on the inside. And if the play's going that way, you're telling me Mike Hall on an inside shade isn't going to be able to beat that offense tackle. You're not as vulnerable as you think back here. So that's why bossing over, making it an on front is going to stress them. But then again, like I said, every time in this front, you have to show them something different. You might throw an angle with the defensive line. You might boss the linebackers over and shoot the strong safety and Sam coming on a blitz. There's so many different things that you can do.
And then the last piece of this that's key, because they'll show all this run stuff. You have to make sure that this guy is really good right there, and that they're locked in here, and that he's seeing him because of any type of play action down the field. That's what they're going to try to do. So that's the iterations of this. They'll move these tight ends around. They can do a lot of different stuff. But when it comes down to it, it's holding the points, being multiple up front, and then these guys right here have to find a way to make a tackle.
Inspired design. Ultra-quiet operation. To you, it's a Bryant Evolution cooling system. To us, it's the ultimate machine.
All set.
For the dealer nearest you, visit Bryant.com.
What a fantastic, insightful breakdown from these two guys. Cannot wait to see how that plays out on Saturday at noon. Great stuff, guys. Thank you for that. And Berm is here now, and we're closer to the game. So are you going to openly advocate for more Michigan murder of their fan base, or
not of the fan base?
Have you cooled down a little bit? No, just the program? I don't know.
Yeah, the program needs to be shut down.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's fair.
Let's be honest. I mean, they don't deserve to be playing in this game with anything on the line. So let's call it what it is, right? They've cheated for the last 2.5 years, and they shouldn't be playing this game with stakes, period. So,
do we know who the officiating crew is?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I haven't seen it. I'm sure they've figured it out, but
they probably don't want to reveal that information before.
You don't want the
Saturday.
Michigan. You don't want the Michigan regents to find out, because they'll end up on Twitter making asses of themselves.
Threatening him,
Yeah.
like the judge.
It's the arrogance.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is okay. So I've been spending some time trying to think about what happened with the Rooster show, and
A
how
little self-reflection.
maybe that went off the rails.
How it turned into Tommy Boy selling brake pads over there.
A skosh. Growing up in the 1990s in Toledo, Ohio, I think that there is a large percentage of the current Ohio State fan base that's spent the last 20 years not realizing why Michigan is the worst. Okay?
Wait, this is after self-reflection?
Yeah, so you got to like sort of.
Well, when you beat them all the time, they're
It's been homogenized. It's
Right.
been numbed. You're like, they're fine. They're sort of harmless. They're just like this old fan base that used to matter. And then all of a sudden, they win 2 games and start acting like they are the greatest program in the history of college football
They've
again.
got 1,000 wins.
999. They beat a high school team for one of their first ones, so I don't count that. But
Also, the last 2 years are going to be vacated, so
Yeah,
we're going to
so-
have to get to
Correct.
1,000 all over again.
they are just the worst. They're just awful. And they shouldn't be allowed to play this game with Big Ten championship and or college football playoff stakes on the line, period. It should. Now, does that mean Ohio State shouldn't go out there and eviscerate them and,
Acid rain?
acid rain
Yeah.
all over their stadium? Which,
stop using big words when you're talking about the Ohio State Michigan game.
whatever term you want to use, I want to see this team. Like, if you're talking one big thing for me, like, I remember, and this is maybe inside baseball. So 2021, we're on the field there pregame. Michigan fans, it was loud in their pregame on in that game. Like they were ready, and then the snow started to fall, and it started to have this weird vibe, right? And the Michigan fans in the front row, second row, third row, in the end zone were just absolutely going crazy at the Ohio State players warming up on the field, and those players were like laughing and smiling and having a good time. And I was sitting there thinking, that doesn't feel right.
Flintstone said they'll have a gay old time.
They were having a joyous. They were like, we can't lose this game. There's no way we're going to lose. We haven't lost to Michigan in a millennia. And I wrote about it after that game that I thought that the COVID year gave Michigan a chance to reset.
You had no
'Cause
idea
they didn't
how
lose.
right you
Yeah,
were.
I mean,
Bert.
I didn't know at the time, but like the Buckeyes players were not taking that game seriously. And then last year happened, and they took it too seriously. And I think that they, and maybe not all the players
So
necessarily.
like the
coaching staff.
porridge was too
Yeah.
cold at first.
And
then
I
too
really
hot.
think this year is just right. And I think the players will take it seriously, but yet you're on the road, so you have that bunker mentality that comes with playing on the road.
Do you think
Like,
it's better there on the road this year?
Yeah, I do. Don't you?
Yeah.
Well, and it's
Oh,
So I
would
think
agree.
Ohio Stadium turns into a very stressful place if you're not playing your best
it does.
in that game. And so I think being on the road actually affords the
Especially early on that game, if things weren't going right for Ohio State and it was at home, and people
They're
started getting
winning.
tense.
Like it was 2017
Well, no,
and a half.
Bob.
I
I'm
know,
saying
I
this
know.
year. I'm saying this year.
But even
No,
last year.
it was 20. It was Bob. They should have had
They should've-
35 points last year.
it was an
And
extremely uneasy 27.
they were demolishing Michigan.
I
Like
know.
it shouldn't even been close.
I wonder why it was.
Well, see, there's
like
one
they-
thing that you guys aren't mentioning yet for the last 2 years that has changed dramatically.
What was that?
Captain Stallions isn't there.
Connor Stallion, salute to service
Yes.
for the most insightful man in the history of college football. It changed everything. Look at the second halves of those games, and then look at the second halves of basically every game Michigan played. Like, I don't think it was. We spent the last 2 years, and I think that this part really sucks about evaluating the game. It's like, I feel like everything I said was a lie. You had the first year, it's like, well, Ohio State wasn't tough enough for this game, but they had the flu. They had all these other things going on. CJ will be back next year. This was going to happen eventually. Okay.
It was up there.
I think
That's,
Michigan was a better team in
I
2021.
think
That's-
they played
yeah,
better in that
That
game.
may be a more honest
At some
coverage
point, we
about
had
that.
to lose a game, right? And I think that year,
it felt everything was aligned for them to do.
I was there too. Yeah, you felt it.
Yeah, you could feel it pregame.
And then
Yeah.
last year, you look at it and you're like, well, how did this same stuff happen again? Well, I guess Jim Knowles was too aggressive, or the defense wasn't ready at the end of year one. Like, do we know that that's really true? Or did Michigan know exactly what Jim Knowles was going to call? And every time there was a blitz, they had this magical play drawn up to get one-on-one coverage and isolate Cameron Martinez. Like, it feels like what I saw for the last 2 years was a mirage. I don't think that that's fair.
Yeah, even if you
I
go
feel
back-
cheated,
even
and I'm
if-
not the one that's I'm not CJ Stroud. It didn't cost me the Heisman. It didn't cost a national championship. I can't imagine
The narrative that he couldn't win big games.
what it's like to have actually been on the field and know that the
Yeah.
other team cheated.
And you look at 2021. I mean, that game was 14-13 at half.
Yeah.
And it was the same way in 2015. It was 14-13 at half, and Ohio State won that game 42-13 because they decided, hey, we're just going to give it to Zeke.
Yeah.
Michigan coming out in the start of the second half in 2021, getting the stop on the 3rd and 1 against Travion. Like,
Oh, I remember that.
now you look at that, and even that you have to look back at through a different lens because like they knew what was coming. And some of that was Ohio State just running their head into a brick wall, which they've done since then. When it's been 3rd and short, 4th and short, they've done a lot of things that you're like, well, that was pretty stupid because it's pretty predictable. But it changes the tenor of everything when, and I've tried to explain this on other shows and other podcasts. Try to explain it to anybody who doesn't play sports and didn't play sports growing up. Like, if you know what the opponent is doing, the game is way easier.
Oh, my God. So much easier. You still have to beat the guy in front of you, but if I know it's a run or I know it's a pass, the chances of me beating him are a lot better. Like, I don't have to decipher what's coming at me. I know.
It's a 25%, 30% boost on every single play, right?
More than that. I would say 40.
So if you have
40.
if you have a 40% chance
Bob,
of being
what's
better
your
on every play,
That's good. That's a big boost.
that's a big boost.
That's a big boost.
You only have to be right 4 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
And it's 160%.
Yeah. What? That's a big boost. That doesn't make sense.
13,000%.
Don't check the math on that.
Yeah.
I wanted to get kicked off again, so I thought that Berm's hottest take would be something about the Michigan fan base. So I wanted to get them out of the way, but now we've got to get to our Bryant heating and cooling systems hottest takes now. And Berm, do you have another one aside from genocide?
Hold on.
I'm totally anti-genocide. I want to be very clear about that.
I don't know. I saw a Hamas shirt in your back seat.
Before we dive any further, that's not what that says. It says hummus.
Oh, hummus. My bad.
I freaking love Greek
It's
food.
the Zohan.
It's perfect.
It's the Zohan.
I got you.
Zohan.
Holy
The
moly.
hummus.
Get me some hummus, dude. Just walks around hoping that someone will feed him hummus.
Yeah. I've got a whole trench coat. Just open it up and there's just rows of hummus.
Yeah.
There's one that has like
Gross.
yeah. There's one that's like red pepper,
Roasted red pepper,
Yeah.
garlic. Yeah.
What are you guys talking about?
I don't know.
Here's my hot take: if Travion Henderson has 100 yards from scrimmage, Ohio State wins this game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if he gets to that magic number, celebrate because the game's over.
Wow, that's easy.
Burb said it.
That's easy. All right, Bob.
Oh, goodness. Hot take.
Because he's the best running back in America.
He's explosive, and he looks fast, and he looks healthy. I will say this. If Kyle McCord is not sacked, Ohio State wins.
Okay.
But he's going to be sacked. How many times can he be sacked for them to still win?
2.5, I'll put the over-under.
Yeah. Bob, that's a bad hot take.
What do you want?
I mean, he gets sacked against Minnesota. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, come on.
And he almost got broken half
Ooh.
No.
at the half.
They're saying you got
All
a
right.
lukewarm take here, Bob.
Anywho.
You jumping in?
No, it's you.
Jim Harbaugh will never coach another game at Michigan. And he shouldn't.
Oh, no, yeah.
Because why?
Michigan, because there's no earthly way that he did not know that this was happening. And maybe the NCAA
Well, Bo
investigators...
said if you didn't know, then you're an idiot, and you shouldn't.
Well,
should
that's
have
the
anyway.
standard the NCAA has.
I think basically
Bo
to explain it,
Schembechler.
I think this is what Austin is saying, that Ohio State's going to win the game this weekend.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
then Jim Harbaugh won't be able to coach
In the Big Ten
in the Big Ten Championship
And then
game.
he'll be gone.
And then he's going to be gone because he's going to take an NFL job and not going to coach in the bowl game.
I don't think that there's an NFL team that will hire Jim Harbaugh.
Not yet.
I do.
I think
Not this
that
year.
he's tarnished his entire legacy at Michigan. I think he's tarnished his reputation as a coach.
So you
Think
don't
about
think
what
he's
is...
you don't think he's coached in the bowl game?
Nope. I think...
Oh.
I tend to agree that he would take some time off and then try to figure it out.
I think that the...
San Diego State
But
needs a
think
new
of-
head coach. Brady Hoke retired, right?
Think about...
He
but
can go
think-
back to his roots.
Did he retire?
Yeah, he's gone. Think about this, though.
Just did.
How many people in the coaching profession are outraged over what he's done? Now, I don't know everyone in it, and there's probably people that are like, you know what? Bill Belichick was part of something like this. We still respect him. He's great for the game of football. Doesn't matter. He moved on. He paid a price for it. They docked him
I'll
draft
tell you
picks
what,
and money.
Kevin Warren will do anything to cheat so his job is secure. He'll hire Jimbo in Chicago.
God, I hope that doesn't happen
I
for
think-
Justin Fields' sake, but
I think you have to look at it and realize that Jim Harbaugh took the 49ers to a Super Bowl in 2013, and they were like,
Lost to his brother.
please get the hell out of our city. We do not like you. No one likes the guy.
That's what I think, that there are a lot of factors working against it. And the fact that his program, when you look at the record through 2020, and he would have been outright fired if someone hadn't encouraged their players to go party after the Penn State game in the middle of COVID, conveniently 2 weeks before the Ohio State game, and they were going to have to get tested to be eligible to play in that game. If that hadn't happened, he would have already been unemployed. He would have been fired by Michigan. No one would be saying, well, he'll just land in an NFL job, because he could have had one in each of the last 2 years after the turnaround. And Minnesota he left. He got on the plane.
He told their team he was leaving.
Bye, guys. I'm going to Minnesota. This has been really fun. I'm going to be the coach of the Vikings. And the Vikings got one look at him in an interview and like, nah, man, we're good.
You're weird, bro.
Can you get back on the plane and get the hell out of here? I just don't believe that an NFL team is going to hire him. And I don't think that he'll be coaching at all next year.
Okay. That's a good
my
hot take.
I mean,
that's a good hot take.
Yeah.
Do you think that he will be on Fox Big Noon Kickoff?
Oh,
opposite Urban
gosh.
Meyer?
Oh, my God.
He'd be better than Mark Ingram.
That would be the craziest hot take there, bro.
I will
Honestly,
say this: Jim Harbaugh needs to be on TV.
Fox, if you're listening, you're welcome. If you can figure out a way to get Urban Meyer
my
and
God.
Jim Harbaugh on opposite sides of Rob Stone and Reggie Bush or Matt Leinart,
You'd have to have all of them in between.
Oh, my God.
because I want to see Jim Harbaugh eating a Wendy's breakfast sandwich.
The sausage biscuit.
I want him to have a saucy boy and Tay-Tays.
There's only
sausage-
one
sausage
breakfast
egg.
coach. There's only one.
The head breakfast
The head
coach.
breakfast coach.
Saucy boy
He
and
only
Tay-Tays
lasted for a
Harbaugh.
day.
There can only be one. Dup a cup of Java.
Man.
It's like the Highlander.
Are you ready for my hot
Yeah,
take?
I'm
You know how few people actually know the Highlander reference? It's such a lost art.
It can only be one.
Can only be one.
My
The guy
hot
gets his
take
head chopped
is Michigan defense has the most points they've given up this year at 24.
Mhm.
Ohio State will get to 40.
Woo, buddy.
They will get to 40.
Now
That's a heat
that is hot.
That's a
They
heat
will.
check.
They will get to 40.
So they're going to lose 41-40. That's incredible.
The Ohio State will get to 40 points.
So what does that mean for your score prediction, Zach? Let's go.
Oh, I'm first now. With
Well, now
this,
you
huh?
just said they're getting
Okay.
40, so I'm just letting you tee it off.
No doubt. So my score prediction is going to be 42-13.
Whoa.
Buckeyes.
That was the score in 2015. Jim Harbaugh's first game against Ohio State.
Oh, that's
and Jim
poetic.
Harbaugh's last.
Oh, wow.
Don't you see how that just came together?
Truth is stranger than fiction. Holy cow, what a story. And then his legacy will be tarnished. No one will even remember the 2 wins that he
42-13.
cheated to obtain. Bob, what do you got?
Gosh, you're really making me rethink this, Zach.
I just think what you saw from an offensive game, like Ryan has been for the last 4 weeks
In his bag.
in his bag, just setting things up. I think you are going to see an offensive game plan more like Georgia, with Trey sprinkled in more than what we saw last year. Now, I'm not saying Kyle. I'm not saying Kyle. I'm not saying
Trey
Kyle
wasn't
is
even sprinkled on
no.
Georgia.
Oh, you're right. But you're right.
No running back was.
No running back was right. I think
Neither was Kate Stover.
No, because he got hurt early on. I think what you're going to see Ryan be able to do with just different personnel groupings that we've seen some this year, it's not going to be like Georgia because Kyle McCord is not C.J. Stroud.
Oh, they're different.
Completely different. But I think the creativity that you're going to see, and I think Ryan is going to tee players up. Kyle is great when you say, hey, this is a play for Marv. We're setting Marv up. He's going to be open. Kyle's phenomenal at it, right? And I think you're going to see more of those plays instead of Ryan saying, hey, this is the play. You got to read it. It's going to be more designated play for guys. And I also think the Michigan defense isn't as good as the Georgia defense that we saw last year.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't
agree
think
with
so
that.
at all.
I know earlier this week, I think I gave a 21-16 score. I mean, I feel more optimistic now as the week has passed.
Zach's bringing the juice.
He is. I'll go 24-13.
24.
And I'm going to go, I think Marv has over 100 yards.
Okay.
Agreed. Yeah.
I mean, that's the difference. That's what I'm
So you're only thinking 24 off of that?
Listen, if they score more, then I'm really happy. Okay? If you win this game by 11, you're a 3.5 point dog. They might be ranked first. You just beat the third team in the country by 11.5 in their shop.
Okay. Doesn't matter if it's an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
I'm with you, but it feels a little better when you're sitting there in a lawn chair waiting for them to finish.
Well, it's true.
RD's going to do
So
everything.
when you're sitting on third base
hey.
waiting for them to show up, Austin.
RD's going to do everything to get
I
over
wasn't
24.
even the first one that made a Vin Diesel reference.
I wasn't sure if that was a Fast and the Furious reference, but then I was like, wait, that was definitely a Fast and the Furious reference.
That's the original. True Blue.
Yeah.
OG
enjoy
Fast
that.
and Furious.
I do enjoy that.
Oh, boy.
Byrne refuses to watch it. The greatest series in the history of cinema.
It's actually great. I love it.
Oh, thank you, Zach.
Even better when Dwayne The Rock Johnson gets involved.
Fast
I
Five.
haven't,
Yes.
I haven't seen the last 2 or 3.
Oh,
What?
Bob.
I haven't seen the last
When
10.
Paul Walker died, it crushed me. I mean,
I haven't seen the last 10.
All right, what's your score
That's
prediction?
not true. You've seen parts of 6.
I've seen at least parts of all 10.
What's your score prediction? I need to get home for Thanksgiving.
It's
Thursday, right?
It is Thursday.
Yeah.
early in the week, I was thinking like 21-17. That's been where
Oh.
I've been. As I start to like, everything that Ryan Day's done in the last month is in the right direction. If Kyle McCord can execute the game plan on Saturday,
why would you think he couldn't?
because sometimes he doesn't execute the game plan.
Look at the biggest games.
Because
this-
he's been
look
he's
at the
been in-
biggest
it's-
games.
It's a roller coaster, man.
but in
It's
the
inconsistent.
biggest games, how has he played?
It's partly okay because he's been inconsistent all year.
Did you watch that Notre Dame drive, Coach?
Yeah.
Did you watch the Notre Dame second and third quarter, Coach?
Don't worry about that.
I watched the
Don't
Mecca drop
worry
a
about
touchdown
that.
pass that was on the money
I'm
in the
saying
end zone.
Kyle McCord has been inconsistent. If he can be consistent, even for 3 quarters, I'll take 1 inconsistent quarter. Give me 3 good quarters, and Ohio State wins this game by 10 points. So I'm going to go 27-17 Buckeyes.
Interesting.
The Buckeyes are a better team. The talent that Ohio State has, the NFL talent they have is better than Michigan. Now, both these teams are going to have like 16 guys drafted next April.
Of a lot.
But the Ohio State guys are going to be drafted higher and nearly at every position. And I think that if those guys show up, then the Buckeyes win this game by double digits.
Is Roman Wilson playing this week?
They expect him to. Yeah.
Expect
Yeah.
him back,
Yeah.
which a quick comeback from what appeared to be a concussion. So
Yeah.
I'm sure Michigan would never skirt the rules.
no,
I'm sure if he's not entirely
everything by the book.
if he's
Leaders and best,
Yeah.
they would never. They're the gold standard of
I mean,
compliance.
I know Arvell Reese
Medical
missed 4
attention.
weeks with a concussion earlier this year for Ohio State, so I'm
NCAA rules.
sure Roman Wilson is back like that.
What you got?
Ohio State 30, Michigan 16. 2 touchdown win for the visitors, and that's it.
I am worried about my physical safety.
There we go.
I'm not going to lie about that.
I've got a flak jacket.
I'll
Do you
be
want a
there.
flak
You
jacket?
just, I'll be there.
Let's
I'll,
have Zach just come down through the tunnel with you.
It's
give me
By the
another.
way,
Hey, give me another silent
can-
pass. I'll be your
Can I
security.
just tell one great story?
Yes,
there
absolutely.
was nothing better than in 2005, and I'm not sure what team it was, like the 74-75 team. And so I played with TJ Downing.
some team that didn't win the national championship.
Didn't win the national championship, but they did win the Big Ten.
I know where this story is.
And they
going.
were getting honored at halftime. I mean, if your dad could do this someday, I mean, this would be legendary. But Walt Downing, father of TJ Downing, who played like 6 years in the league, was an offensive guard up there, was getting inducted, I think, or recognized at halftime for their first
his
quarter.
team was.
His team,
His
yes,
team,
team.
not
His
him,
entire,
but
not
yeah.
just him. His entire team was getting recognized for their Big Ten championship, and he had on his Michigan letter jacket. And TJ gave us a heads up. He goes, "You're going to want to watch this." And I'm like, them honoring these guys. He's like, "My dad's got something planned." His dad, straight up WWE style, had on the TJ Downing jersey, 72 Buckeyes underneath. And when they announced him, they didn't announce any individual person. He just stepped forward and ripped his jacket open, popped the buttons, and pointed to the jersey. I don't know what his teammates were thinking at that point and how he just completely grabbed all the spotlight off of them. But it was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And that was in 2005.
We need a moment like it
We do.
for 2020.
You're going to have a couple Grant Schwartz moments, guys
Jeez,
walking down the
Grant
tunnel.
Schwartz.
I was part of that game.
Oh, my-
2009.
You're going to have that
2009. Grant Schwartz. Oh
You're
yes.
going to have that moment on
Oh.
Saturday.
Oh yes. I was there. I saw it.
You're gonna-
Grant Schwartz was, I think, a little. I don't know. I don't know the way to explain what he was going through.
He went through it.
A half upset, a half pissed off, 3/4 tinkled because I think he peed his pants. Like,
He was ready to throw down in that moment.
yeah, in that moment.
In that moment.
Well,
was awesome.
There's going to be something special on Saturday at noon. I guarantee it. It was great to get set for the biggest edition of the game.
Will this be
of
the
all
most
time.
watched college football game of
I
all
think
time?
it will, because I think with all the Harbaugh stuff, it's like superseded normal sports news, and it's out there now in the ether.
Well, you've already seen Michigan's viewership the last 2 weeks go up because I think people are like glued into.
I think it would be the most watched regular season college football game of all time.
What's that number?
Probably 30,
like
25
25
million,
25
somewhere
million
there.
would be my guess. Because they've probably been listening to Weekend Kickoff, brought to you by Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems, and they know that this is the biggest edition of the game that there will ever be, because it's not ever going to be the same after Saturday. They're going out with a bang. That is Jeremy Birmingham. Bill Landis was here earlier. Appreciate those guys. That's Bobby Carpenter, Zach Boren. They've got gold pants. They've been through it. I'm just Austin
Can I have
Ward.
your gold pants?
No, you can't have his gold pants. He's
You
already.
got to earn them.
They're not given. They're earned.
I know. I'm not going to do that, Bob.
If you pipe JJ McCarthy on the sideline, you might be able to get some.
I'm pretty convinced it was Connor Stallions who ran into JT Barrett with the camera in 2017.
He just gave you an opening to get a set of gold pants. I didn't think that was going to happen, but we got weird, as we always do at the end of Weekend Kickoff. As always, it's brought to you by Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems. Enjoy the game, folks.